The moons of Naratis hung low, painting the forest in shifting silver. Bioluminescent vines pulsed faint light across trunks wider than houses, and every shadow seemed to breathe. Cale Arden moved carefully through the undergrowth, spear angled forward, trying to keep pace with the Elvery hunters. They walked like phantoms, silent, tall, skin glinting blue against the night. He envied their grace. His own boots sank into damp soil with every step, breaking twigs, snapping leaves. When the lead hunter turned his head, Cale caught the glint of disapproval in his yellow eyes. "I hear him before I see him," the hunter muttered in Elvery, his voice sharp as a blade. Cale clenched his jaw but said nothing. He had learned enough of their language to understand insults, though he lacked the words to defend himself. From the rear of the group, a gentler voice came. "Enough, Daros. He is young." Cale turned his head just slightly and found her gaze, Lyara, daughter of the chief. She moved with the same effortless poise as the others, yet her smile held warmth where theirs carried only steel. 4 weeks now, Cale had shadowed their patrols, trying to prove he wasn't another fragile human tag-along. Lyara was the only one who believed he might succeed. The hunters spread into a fan-shaped formation, their long spears at the ready. Cale felt tension ripple through the group like a single heartbeat. Something moved ahead, heavy, deliberate steps cracking branches. The night stilled. Even the glowvines dimmed. Daros raised his fist. "Beast." The word sent a shiver down Cale's spine. He had heard stories of Narati's predators, the scar lions, bodies plated in bone armor, fangs dripping venom that could fell a giant. No human had ever survived one. The ground trembled. Then it burst from the thicket. A scar lion, twice Cale's height at the shoulder, scales glistening black-blue under moonlight. Its maw split wide, rows of teeth gleaming wet. The Elvery hunters braced, spears lowering in unison. But the beast didn't charge them. It lunged sideways. Toward Lyara. "Lyara." Cale's shout tore from his throat before thought could stop it. She stumbled back, her foot catching on a root, her spear tumbling from her hand. The scar lion's paw lashed, claws raking her side. Silver blood sprayed across the vines. The hunters cried out, but they were too far, too slow. Cale didn't think. He hurled himself forward, spear clutched in both hands. He rammed the point into the beast's flank. It roared, body twisting, tail whipping him off his feet. The impact knocked the breath from his lungs. He hit the earth hard, pain stabbing through his ribs. The beast turned on him now, jaws wide. Cale rolled aside just as fangs crashed into the soil where his chest had been. He scrambled up, spear still in hand. His heart hammered so loud it drowned the forest. His body screamed to flee. Yet Lyara's blood was still spilling onto the roots, her pale hand pressed desperately against the wound. He set his feet. Raised the spear. The beast lunged. Cale thrust upward with all his weight. The spear sank deep between scales. But before triumph could spark, its head snapped sideways. Fangs clamped into his arm. Agony lit every nerve. Fire raced through his veins, black and searing. He screamed, collapsing beneath the beast's weight as it shook him like prey. "Cale." Lyara's voice, raw and desperate. A volley of spears struck the scar lion's side. Hunters surged in at last, their coordinated strikes piercing joints, throat, heart. The creature convulsed, shrieked, then fell still, crushing vines beneath its bulk. Cale lay trapped beneath its jaws, vision blurring. The poison burned like molten iron through his blood. His spear clattered from his numb fingers. The hunters heaved the beast's head away. Daros bent over him, eyes narrowing at the wound. "Fool boy. You should be dead already. Don't speak." Lyara shoved him aside, kneeling beside Cale. Her hands pressed against his torn flesh. Her silver blood streaked her arm where claws had raked her, but her focus was only on him. Cale tried to speak, but only a broken rasp escaped. His body convulsed as venom surged deeper. "He saved you," Daros snapped at her. "But he is doomed. No human survives scar venom. Then we will not let him be human." Lyara's voice cut sharp, unexpected. Daros's eyes widened, but she ignored him, turning to the others. "Carry him." Now. Strong arms lifted Kale. His vision spun as they ran, every jolt sending fire through his veins. The night sky fractured into shards of silver and black. He drifted in and out of awareness. At times he felt Liara's hand on his, fingers trembling but firm. At others he heard the hunters whispering, "Why save him? Why waste our rights on an outsider?" The citadel loomed ahead, carved into the mountainside, towers etched with runes glowing faint blue. Giant gates opened at their approach, guards shouting in alarm when they saw the princess's wound and the human boy limp in their arms. They carried him into the great hall where the chief stood, a towering figure, armor etched with centuries of scars. His gaze fell on Kale, then to his daughter. "Explain." Liara's voice shook, but she held firm. "He bled for me, father." He faced the beast alone. The chief's stern eyes flicked to Kale's torn arm, where black veins spidered up toward his shoulder. He frowned, ancient knowledge reflected in his expression. "The venom spreads. By dawn, his heart will stop." "Then save him," Liara demanded. Murmurs rippled through the gathered warriors. One spoke aloud, voice dripping scorn. "Why waste sacred rites on a human? Let his bravery be honored in death." Kale forced his eyes open, meeting the chief's stare. His breath came shallow, chest tight, but he managed a whisper. "I don't want honor. I want to live." Silence followed. The chief's eyes lingered on him, unreadable. Finally, he looked at Liara. "You know what it requires." Her jaw clenched. She nodded. Kale didn't understand the words fully, but he caught the weight in her eyes: fear, hope, determination. Then darkness took him again. Kale woke drowning in fire. Every pulse of his heart dragged venom deeper, burning like liquid iron in his veins. His vision swam with fractured images, towering pillars, glowing runes, the flicker of torchlight. Voices rang around him, harsh, melodic, alien. He blinked, forcing clarity. He lay on a stone bed draped in furs, the citadel's great hall echoing with argument. The hunters circled like hawks, their tall frames shimmering blue under the runelight. Beyond them, on a raised dais, the chief stood in silence, eyes fixed on Kale as though weighing his soul. Liara knelt beside him. Her wound had been bound, but silver blood stained her tunic. Her hand rested over his, trembling, though her voice cut firm against the storm of voices. "He saved me. Without him I would be dead. That is truth enough." Daros barked a reply. "Truth does not change what he is. Human flesh cannot bear our rights. The poison will end him before dawn. Better to let his courage end with honor." Kale tried to move, but the attempt sent knives of pain through his arm and chest. His throat worked. "I'm still here," he croaked, voice raw. Liara's grip tightened. "You will not leave us," she whispered fiercely, though her eyes shone with fear. The chief raised his hand and the chamber quieted. His gaze bore down on Kale. "You fought the beast when trained warriors faltered. That cannot be ignored. Yet the venom knows no mercy. There is one path only, the binding." Gasps rippled through the circle. A hunter stepped forward, incredulous. "The binding is for our own kind. No outsider has endured it." Another spat on the floor. "It would pollute the bloodline." Liara rose, shoulders squared. "Would you rather I lie dead among the roots? He bled for me. He has earned more than your contempt." The chief's expression hardened, but he did not silence her. Instead, his eyes drifted back to Kale. "The binding ties life to life. Her strength becomes yours. Your weakness becomes hers. If one falls, the other follows. This is the weight of the right." Kale forced himself upright, though pain racked him. His vision darkened, but he met the chief's gaze. "If it keeps me breathing, I'll bear it." Liara's breath caught, and for a heartbeat Kale saw the storm in her eyes, fear for herself, fear for him, and something deeper she dared not name. The chief studied them both in silence, then spoke with finality. "So be it. Prepare the chamber." They carried Kale through winding passages carved into the mountain's heart. Torches flickered across ancient carvings of battles and rituals, shadows leaping over etched warriors locked in eternal struggle. The venom gnawed at his body with every step, dragging him closer to the edge of death. At last they entered a vaulted chamber. A pool shimmered at its center, water glowing faint blue as if lit from beneath. Symbols ran along the walls, pulsing like veins of light. "This is the Well of Souls," Liara whispered, supporting Kale as they approached. "Our ancestors sealed their essence here. It is both gift and curse." Kale tried to speak, but the fire in his chest stole words. Two priestesses descended the steps, faces painted with silver lines. They carried vessels of oil that glowed faintly green. One spoke in a voice both soft and resonant. "The binding cannot be undone. Once joined, no blade nor distance will sever you." Liara did not falter. "I accept." The priestess regarded her gravely, then looked at Kale. "And you, human?" Kale's breath came ragged. His body screamed to surrender, to collapse into the dark, but his eyes locked on Liara. The memory of her hand clutching his in the forest burned brighter than the venom. He managed a hoarse whisper. "Yes." The priestesses motioned him into the pool. Liara waded in opposite him, her long hair floating like strands of night across the water. Runes flared brighter, filling the chamber with radiant glow. "Take her hand," one priestess commanded. Kale reached across the water. Their palms met. A surge like lightning ripped through him, pain and warmth entwined. Liara's breath hitched, her body trembling as if the venom raced into her veins as well. Their eyes locked, and for an instant he felt everything: her fear, her strength, the ache of her wound, the steady rhythm of her heart. The priestesses began to chant, their voices weaving like twin streams. The water glowed brighter, rising around them, curling upward as if alive. Symbols on the walls burned white-hot. Kale gasped as agony flared, but beneath it, something else, a tether anchoring him. Not just life, but her life. The fire in his blood shifted, cooled, as though drawn out by unseen hands. Liara cried out, then clutched his hand tighter. He saw her pain, felt it like his own. But he also felt her resolve, unyielding, fierce, protective. It steadied him. The water surged, engulfing them both. Light seared Kale's vision. Then the venom's grip snapped like a broken chain. He collapsed forward, coughing, lungs burning with clean air. When the glow faded, silence filled the chamber. The priestesses stepped back, awe in their eyes. "The binding is complete." Kale looked up, body shaking. The black veins that had marred his skin were gone. Strength hummed in his blood, foreign yet alive. Liara knelt before him, pale but breathing, her eyes locked on his. He swallowed. You saved me." She shook her head softly. "We saved each other." Later, as he lay wrapped in furs within a side chamber, Kale felt the bond like a quiet echo in his mind. Every flicker of Liara's emotion brushed against him: exhaustion, relief, a glimmer of something unspoken. It unsettled him, yet he could not imagine silence without it. Daros appeared at the doorway, face unreadable. "You should have died. Many will say you should have." Kale forced himself upright. "But I didn't." Daros's gaze hardened. "No. And because of that, nothing will ever be the same." He turned and left without another word. Kale lay back, heart pounding. Nothing will ever be the same. And for the first time since leaving Earth, he believed it. The days following the binding felt unreal. Kale walked the Citadel's halls with new strength in his body, though it was not wholly his. Every breath carried the faint echo of Liara's presence, her pulse thrumming faintly behind his own, her thoughts brushing like whispers at the edge of his mind. Sometimes it startled him, sometimes it steadied him. But not everyone shared Liara's relief. Wherever Kale went, elvery eyes followed, some burning with suspicion, others with outright hostility. In the training yard, warriors paused their drills to sneer as he passed. He ignored them, focusing instead on practice with a spear. His movements had sharpened since the binding, guided by instincts not entirely his own. When his thrust rang true against the wooden post, he felt Liara's satisfaction ripple faintly through the bond, as if she were standing behind him. Daros confronted him that morning, voice edged with venom sharper than any beast's fang. "You walk our halls as if you belong. Do not mistake survival for acceptance." Kale wiped sweat from his brow, steadying his breath. I didn't ask for your acceptance. I asked to live. Living is not the same as being one of us. Darrow's gaze slid to Liara, who had stepped into the yard. And tying yourself to her, that is a stain our people will not forgive. Liara's voice rang firm. Enough, Darrow's. The binding was my choice as much as his. Speak against him, and you speak against me. Darrow stiffened but said nothing further, retreating with a glare that promised future reckoning. That night, the council assembled in the chief's chamber. Kale and Liara stood beside the throne as word of raids spread through the stone walls like fire. Messengers reported villages burned, hunters slain, supplies stolen. Each account named the same leader, Vorak of the Broken Fang. Kale listened in silence, though dread coiled in his gut. The name was whispered like a curse. Vorak had once been the chief's war captain, they said, until pride and bloodlust drove him to rebellion. He had gathered those who despised human alliances, forging them into marauders. Now they struck without mercy, slaughtering both humans and Elvery who dared trade or travel together. He moves closer, a scout warned, kneeling before the dais. By week's end, his raiders will reach these walls. The chief's voice rumbled low. Then we will meet him in battle. The chamber filled with the clatter of armored fists striking chests in approval. Yet others cast sharp looks toward Kale, as if Vorak's advance had been summoned by his presence alone. Later, as the council dispersed, Kale leaned close to Liara. They'll blame me for this, won't they? Her eyes softened. Some already do. But Vorak's hatred burns older than you. Do not carry guilt that is not yours. Still, unease gnawed at him. The following days passed in preparation. Armor was fitted, weapons sharpened. The citadel thrummed with warlike energy. Kale trained alongside younger warriors, though many kept their distance. Liara, despite her wound, returned to drills with her spear, her determination radiating through the bond and driving Kale harder. At night, when torches dimmed and the halls fell silent, they spoke in hushed tones. You feel it too, don't you? Kale asked one evening, lying on his back beneath the carved ceiling of his chamber. Liara sat nearby, polishing her spear. The bond. He nodded. Sometimes it's like I'm not just me anymore. Like you're there inside, shaping every step. Her hand stilled on the shaft of her weapon. It is not one way, Kale. I feel you as well. Your doubts, your fears. Your stubborn courage. He turned his head toward her. Does it frighten you? A pause. Then quietly, it frightens me how much it doesn't. Their eyes held in silence, the unspoken louder than words. At dawn, horns shattered the quiet. Scouts raced back to the gates, shouting of smoke on the horizon. Villages burned less than a day's march away. The chief gathered his warriors in the courtyard. His voice thundered across the ranks. Vorak brings war to our threshold. Today we prove that traitors and beasts alike cannot break Elvery steel. Kale stood among the ranks, gripping his spear tight. He felt Liara beside him, her presence bolstering his heart. When the gates opened, the host marched into the forest. Shadows stretched long between towering trees, the glowvines pulsing faintly as if warning of blood to come. Birds scattered in flocks at the sound of armor clashing. They reached the smoldering ruins of a village by midday. Ash coated the ground, homes reduced to blackened skeletons. Bodies lay strewn across roots and stones, men, women, children. Kale's stomach knotted. He forced himself not to look away. They slaughter without thought, one warrior growled. They slaughter to send a message, Liara corrected grimly. A horn's blast cut through the air. From the tree line, armored figures emerged, Elvery painted in blood-red sigils, their leader towering among them. Vorak. His armor was jagged bone and steel, his eyes burning with hatred as they fixed on Kale. So the rumors are true, he called, voice carrying across the clearing. The chief's daughter shackled herself to a human. A boy who thinks bravery makes him worthy. Kale gritted his teeth, forcing his fear down. You killed innocents. You call that worthy? Vorak laughed, harsh and cold. I cleanse what should never have been tainted. Humans are vermin, and those who lie with them are worse. His gaze slid to Liara. "When I cut him down, you will see truth." The chief raised his spear. "You will see only death, Vorak." The clash erupted with a roar. The broken fang surged forward, shields locking, weapons flashing. The citadel's warriors met them head-on. Steel rang against steel, war cries shook the forest, and blood spattered the roots. Kale fought with every breath, spear darting, instincts sharpened by the bond. He felt Liara beside him, her movements echoing through his mind. Together they moved like halves of one blade. When he faltered, her strength surged into him. When she stumbled, his steadiness held her. Still, the enemy pressed hard. Vorak carved through warriors like a storm, his blade scattering bodies. His eyes sought Kale with unrelenting hunger. Finally, he broke through the melee, striding straight toward them. "Human." His voice thundered over the chaos. "Face me and die." Kale tightened his grip, chest heaving. Fear clawed at him, but Liara's presence anchored him, her resolve flowing through their bond. He stepped forward. "Then come take me." The battlefield trembled beneath the clash of steel and the screams of the dying. Ash swirled through the clearing like snow, carried on the heat of burning homes. Kale's lungs burned as he fought to keep his footing among the chaos, every strike of his spear driven by desperation as much as skill. Vorak's towering figure cut through the melee like a shadow of death. His jagged blade dripped crimson, his armor gleaming with gore. Each step carried the weight of inevitability, his gaze fixed on Kale with merciless hunger. "You bleed this world with your weakness," Vorak snarled as he strode closer. "One swing, and your bond breaks. The girl follows you into the grave." Kale forced his voice steady, though his hands trembled against the shaft of his spear. "Then you'll have to kill me. But you'll never kill what we stand for." Vorak's laugh was a blade itself. "Brave words. Let us see if you die as bravely as you boast." He lunged. Kale barely raised his spear in time, the force of Vorak's strike rattling his bones. The sheer weight of the blow flung him back a step, his boots sliding through ash. He countered with a thrust toward Vorak's exposed side, but the warlord twisted, knocking the weapon aside with contemptuous ease. Their duel pulled them into the open, soldiers clashing around them but giving wide berth as if the air itself demanded witness. Liara darted to Kale's side, her spear intercepting Vorak's second strike. The impact rang out like thunder. "You won't touch him," she hissed. Vorak sneered. "Then die with him." The fight became a blur of steel and fury. Kale moved not as a lone fighter but as half of something greater. Each time he faltered, Liara's rhythm filled the gap. Each time her defense wavered, his instinct carried them through. Their bond thrummed like fire in his veins, their movements weaving into one. But Vorak was relentless. His strikes hammered down, each swing threatening to crush them. Kale's arms screamed with strain, his lungs heaving. Sparks flew as weapons clashed again and again. At last, Vorak feinted toward Liara, then slammed his knee into Kale's chest. The air tore from Kale's lungs as he staggered back, his spear clattering to the ground. Vorak loomed over him, blade raised high. "This is the end of your delusion, boy." Kale's vision blurred. Pain seared his ribs, but through the haze he felt Liara's fear raw, desperate, pouring into him through the bond. It ignited something deeper than strength, deeper than survival. He rolled aside as the blade struck down, stone shattering where his skull had been. Snatching his spear from the dirt, he lunged upward with all his weight. The point pierced Vorak's shoulder, sliding deep between jagged armor. The warlord roared, wrenching himself free. He backhanded Kale across the face, the force knocking him sprawling. Blood filled Kale's mouth, stars exploding in his vision. "Kale." Liara's voice broke across the din. Through the blur, he saw Vorak advancing again, fury blazing in his eyes. Kale tried to rise, but his limbs failed. His body screamed surrender. Then warmth surged through him, Liara's strength flooding the bond, steady and fierce. Her will pressed against his, refusing collapse. "Stand," her voice echoed in his mind. "Stand with me." Kale gritted his teeth, forcing his body upright. He raised his spear again, battered but unbroken. Vorak hesitated for a fraction, eyes narrowing. "Impossible." Kale's chest heaved. Not impossible. Not alone. Liara darted forward, her spear thrusting with precision. Kale matched her rhythm, their strikes intertwining, overwhelming. For the first time, Vorak faltered under their unity. Kale roared, driving his spear low while Liara struck high. The warlord blocked one, but not both. Her blade bit into his arm, Kale's spear sank deep into his thigh. Vorak bellowed in pain, stumbling. Rage twisted his face. With a guttural cry, he swung his sword in a desperate arc. Kale braced to block, too slow. But Liara stepped between them. The blade tore across her side, blood spraying silver. She gasped, falling to her knees. The bond flared, agony ripping through Kale as if the wound were his own. His vision turned red. He screamed, charging with ferocity born of love and fury. His spear drove straight through Vorak's chest, bursting out the other side. The warlord froze, shock flooding his features. "A human," he rasped, before collapsing lifeless to the ground. Silence rippled outward as the raiders saw their leader fall. Their cries faltered, weapons lowering in disbelief. One by one, they broke, fleeing into the forest's shadows. The field fell quiet, save for the groans of the wounded and the crackle of flames. Kale dropped beside Liara, hands trembling as he pressed against her wound. Blood stained his palms silver. "Stay with me," he begged, voice breaking. Her eyes fluttered open, pain clouded but steady. "We're still, together." The bond pulsed weakly, tethering them even through agony. Then shadows fell over them. The chief stood above, his expression carved from stone. He looked at his daughter, then at Kale. Around them, warriors waited in silence, their judgment hanging heavy. Kale met the chief's gaze, defiance in his bloodshot eyes. "If you condemn me, so be it. But know this, without me, without us, Vorak would still stand." The chief said nothing at first. The silence stretched until Kale's chest ached with it. Finally, the old warrior knelt. His massive hand pressed over Kale's, steadying it against Liara's wound. His voice was low, but it carried across the field. "Blood of my blood. Bond of my bond. From this day, you are Elvery." The warriors bowed their heads as one. Kale's breath shuddered out, relief flooding him as tears stung his eyes. He turned to Liara, her hand gripping his weakly. Her lips curved in the faintest smile. "You hear that?" he whispered. "They can't deny us now." Her voice was a whisper, but her eyes shone bright. "We never needed their permission." That night, the fires of victory burned high, casting light against the mountain walls. Songs of triumph echoed through the citadel, though Kale sat apart from the celebration, his arm around Liara as she rested against him. The bond hummed softly, no longer strange but familiar, as if it had always been part of him. For the first time since leaving Earth, Kale felt he belonged not just among them, but with her. The galaxy beyond still loomed vast and dangerous. Yet here, in this moment, he knew one truth: together, they could face anything.